Okay, this here is a reply to this gal, and the reason I'm doing this is because I have talked about this topic tons and tons of times, okay? And I don't see too many people who want to do videos and expose this topic, and I appreciate her for doing so, I really do. So I wanted to tell her thank you for her video, okay? That's what this is about, so it's a sort of a reply to her, so watch out.
War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
I thought I'd have a look at, Obama's education plan and reform and school teachers' rewards. That's right. So I figured I'd show you this sign for this here first. That's right, Obama's education plan reform and schools and rewards for teachers. That's right. So if the teachers do a good job, this is what we'll have. 10 disgusting examples of very young school children being arrested and handcuffed and brutalized by police. Well, that's because the teachers are doing a good job. Don't you understand that? Okay, you got to understand that. Teachers are doing a really good job here. Okay? So I figured I'd let you have a look at this real quick. And of course, I'll leave these links underneath the video for you, okay? But let's take a look here, okay? Number one, at an elementary school, that's right, in Baltimore recently, 3 9-year-old girls and an 8-year-old boy were arrested for fighting and marched out of their elementary school in handcuffs. That's right. Okay, 2. New Haven, Connecticut, 10-year-old boy was actually arrested by police for giving another student a wedgie on the school bus. That's right, that's a crime, you gave him a wedgie. Okay? 3. Just last year, 5-year-old boy in a public school, that's right, California, was arrested by police and handcuffed with zip ties because he was committing battery on a police officer. Now that's right. Really, how much damage could a 5-year-old kid do to a police officer? The boy was ultimately sent to a hospital and forced to undergo physical examination, okay, a psychiatric examination, okay? 4, a 6-year-old girl in Florida was throwing objects, hitting administration personnel, and screaming uncontrollably, so police handcuffed a 40-pound little girl. That's right. I did a video on that long ago. That's right. In San Fernando in California, right? A few months ago, a 7-year-old special education student was blasted in the face with pepper spray because he would not quit climbing on the furniture. Police were then able to subdue the boy. That's right, because they couldn't control the 7-year-old, And the teachers are doing a good job because we have police in the school systems now, so we always have a cop in the school system for our prison state, That's right, for the prison state, okay? A 13-year-old boy in public school, that's right, in New Mexico was recently arrested by police for burping in class. There you go, it's a crime to burp, that's right. A 12-year-old girl in school, Forest Hills, New York, wrote, "I love my friends, Abby and Faith," on her desk. The police were called out, and she was marched out of school in handcuffs in front of her friends. That's right, a teenage couple in Houston, Texas, poured milk on each other during a squabble while they were breaking up a white back instead of being sent to the principals. They were arrested by police and sent to court. Okay, there's some examples. You can see the link underneath the more for this, okay? This is examples of the rewards the teachers are getting when they're doing a good job, and they are doing a good job here. You don't believe me? Here, listen to her.
Well, there was a very disturbing trend lately of treating school children like criminals. Police handcuffed charged 6-year-old girl for misbehaving. A 6-year-old in Georgia was stuffed and cuffed for basically having a tantrum. Isn't it strange, though, how parents are expected to control their children without handcuffing them? I mean, if a parent put flex cuffs on their 6-year-old, they'd probably have their child taken away for child abuse, but somehow it's okay for the school and the police to do that. And this is only one example. 10 disgusting examples of very young school children being arrested, handcuffed, and brutalized by police. And what are they being arrested for? Things like giving another student a wedgie, burping in gym class, spraying perfume on yourself, throwing paper airplanes, sassing off to the teacher, really just about anything. And by the way, this isn't the only way in which teachers are going too far. This also came up recently. Public schools in action. Teacher refuses to let kindergartner use bathroom during test. Teacher makes her sit in her own excrement, gives her trash bag to wrap around herself afterward. School is supposed to be a place where children can go to learn and socialize with other children and have fun and have good experiences, not be treated worse than they would if they were in Guantanamo. So what's going on? How did this happen? Well, here's a really good article from The Guardian. The U.S. schools with their own police. Basically what happened was people fell for fear tactics. They were told that there should really be police in school because of things like a rise in juvenile crime and terrible incidents like what happened at Columbine. So they should have police there to protect the kids. But then what happened was this became like an extension of the zero tolerance policy that they had towards drugs. It became zero tolerance towards anything. And they started to ticket children as young as, you know, in first grade, little 6-year-olds, for all kinds of things that are really just normal childhood behavior and that would not be crimes or misdemeanors if they were committed, let's say, or performed by adults. You know, if an adult burps, it's not a crime. You don't get a ticket for that. You don't get a ticket for spraying perfume on yourself in university class. But that's what they started doing in the school. And a lot of these kids are from poor families, so the parents can't pay the tickets. The tickets just rack up. And then what happens is at a certain point, when they get old enough, the way that they have to pay for these tickets then is by going to jail. And what's worse about this is that when they then apply for funding, for, you know, financial aid for college, and they're asked, have you ever been arrested? Well, they are no longer eligible for financial aid. So this is really discriminatory against poor people especially. This is what you call the school to prison pipeline. Kids are treated like criminals in school. They get used to this kind of treatment. They're used to living in a kind of police state. They rack up all these tickets, and if you can't pay for them, you go to jail, and then you're not going to college, and you've already been in jail. So it's a surefire way to turn kids into criminals. And this is only one of several things that have been done with the educational system to turn it into like a kind of processing plant that works in the favor of the powers that be, of the New World Order. First, what they did was they dumbed down the school system, because the worst thing to have is an informed, intelligent, capable population. So they rank very low academically, and that has to do with the reforms of the school system, dumb everything down. Another thing they started to do is put children on medication. They're drugging the kids. And another thing that they started to do was bring in all these ed programs. Drug ed, pregnancy prevention, although it doesn't prevent it, and neither does the drug ed. They actually encourage those behaviors, bullying ed, suicide, it's all the same. What they're doing is they would go into a town where there was no drug problem. And despite opposition from, you know, the parents and the school board, they would find a way to eventually get them to accept having a drug ed program. They said, our kids don't even know what drugs are. We don't have a drug problem. What do we need this for? But it was part of the plan to actually get the kids on drugs. You know, it sounds hard to believe, but that's what they want. They want the kids to be stupid and screwed up and drugged up and having been to prison and totally disenfranchised.
She's correct. Just like when she talked about the education on sex to help try to reduce pregnancy and all that crap. Okay, to stop the sex, stop children from having sex. So the school, what did the school do? The school started passing out condoms. That's right. Let's get the kids condoms so that we can encourage them to have sex.
Because then they can, you know, use them as slaves in the prison industrial complex and have them make cruise missiles and things like that. So they would bring these programs in, and children are very susceptible. They're very impressionable and influenceable. So you start talking to the kids about drugs. Have you ever seen one of these books? They list like every pharmaceutical known to man and like give the kids all the details. What do they need to know all this stuff for? They really don't. And what happens is you just keep talking to the kids about drugs and pregnancy and sex and suicide and bullying, and what you end up with is more of all these problems. You even create them when they didn't exist before. So there's like a multi-pronged approach to just completely screw up the kids, turn them into good slaves, and turn them into, well, quite literally slaves in the private prison industrial complex, and to just also generally dumb them down and get them used to being policed, living in a police state. That's all that this accomplishes. What I'd like to know is, are there any good schools left? If you have children, do you send them to school? And how is their school experience? Are these anomalies, or is this the norm, what I'm reading about here?
This is the norm. It's called social conditioning. It's called making it the norm, okay? Social conditioning.
Leave me your comments, and thanks for listening to me.
Yep, that's what that is. That's called the norm, social conditioning, and everything she said is 100% correct. And we'll go back over here, and we look, and we see, Obama's education plan to reform schools, that's right, and reward teachers. And remember, what we're rewarding them for is things like this, okay? That's right. We've got cops in the schools. We have police state now. Children can be arrested for anything. That way they get a criminal record so their name is in the system at a very young age. That's right. So then, of course, the encouragement so they'll grow up and be fuck-ups in life. That way they can get them into the prison system. That's what this is all about.
War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
KY3 News at 6.
Tonight, a mother is upset over a classroom incident that left her kindergartner embarrassed. Good evening, I'm Jerry Jacob.
I'm Lisa Rose, and we'll be talking to Steve Grant in Washington a little later in the newscast. It was a 6-year-old girl who had an accident in her classroom. Now her parents are pushing for policy changes. KY3's Sarah Forhetz has the story from Southwest R5 School in Washburn.
They told me that the teacher had asked her to go to the restroom before testing time.
Lisa Skidmore says asking a young child to go to the bathroom on demand is next to impossible.
You can't do that to a 6-year-old.
That's why when her kindergartner told her teacher she had to go to the restroom during the test and wasn't allowed, Lisa couldn't believe it. Her little girl couldn't hold it.
She still had poop, diarrhea poop, coming out the back, up the front, down her legs.
Skidmore says her daughter was forced to sit in the class for the remainder of test time, about 15 minutes. Then mom was called after the test, and it was another 20-minute drive to school to pick her daughter up. All the while, her little girl had to sit in the mess. No one bothered to clean her up, though a teacher did give her a trash bag to wrap around herself.
Don't even treat a dog that way.
She says she's hoping policy will change and common sense will prevail.
I don't want this to happen to any other kid. That's the point of it, too, you know. I don't want this ever happening.
We talked to the school superintendent. He didn't want to go on camera, but Mr. Bob Walker tells us that he wishes the school would have handled it differently. He said, bottom line, we regret what happened. But he says from here on out, he has instructed all of his teachers to be more sensitive to possible situations that might come up like this one. The little girl's dad has a tough time even talking about it.
If any parent sent their kids to school with crappy pants, those parents would be facing criminal charges. I believe that with all my heart.
The family isn't pressing charges, but likely pressed hard enough for the school to consider changing its ways.
If it's your child, I mean, it hits a raw nerve. I mean, deep.
In Washburn, Sarah Forhetz, KY3 News.
Many kids taking MAP tests right now. That's the state's standardized test required by law. Those tests start in the 3rd grade. The superintendent says the reason the teacher was sticking so closely to MAP testing guidelines, even for a kindergartner, is because she was trying to simulate the stringent rules she'd face later.